Welcome back to the channel, folks, and to another remote battle report. This time it's the return match between myself and Rob from Valley Gaming. You may have seen the game that we played a couple of weeks ago now, where I took Panzer Grenadiers with Panzer IVs with some Panzer Grenadiers against some Canadians, I think it was, in Scouts Out. If you've not checked out that game, folks, it's a good tense game, so have a watch. This game I'm going to be attacking and Rob is going to be defending. It's always a good way to start a player who is playing remotely in a defensive situation where they don't have to cope with understanding all the movement challenges when they're just trying to understand what it is that they're seeing when you're playing remote. So Rob's going to be defending the Soviets and I'm going to do something a bit mad, which is play all tanks, and I'm going to be using Hungarians. So let's go over, do the introduction, and then we can move on from there. Hey, hello Rob, Valley Gaming, welcome to the channel.
Hello Frank, nice to be back.
Going to get you playing a remote game, just as I did a couple of weeks ago for yourself, so we'll try and make this as painless as possible.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be.
We'll see. Maybe not on the dice side of things, as much pain as is possible. I'm quite happy with that, but at least in the moving things around and understanding what's going on, that's the main challenge to doing these remote gaming if anyone else fancies a go. So today's game, you wanted to play Soviets today, so
yes.
You can maybe tell us what's in your list.
Well, basically, I've taken a rifle battalion, not a hero rifle battalion or motor. I'm just going for your bog standard rifle battalion. I did have a bit more mortars in my list, but Frank gave me a little insight and it was allowed me to change my list a little bit, which was very generous of him. They would have probably been useless otherwise. But so it's going to be strange because obviously they're aggressive infantry with a 4+ save, so could drop pretty quickly. I decided I'd like to go defensive for Soviets because of all the games I've played Soviets and seen Soviets play on my channel, they've always been an attack. And with the amount of infantry they've got, I always thought they'd be fairly decent defences, a lot to chew through. But they aren't just a rifle battalion, they are a naval infantry battalion, command card that I've been looking at for a while, which basically changed. Their motivation stays the same, but they rally on a 2+ if their commissar is still alive, which is pretty decent. And they also have a 3+ assault for the motherland assault as well from a 4. But that's only the rifle and SMG companies. No mention of the HQ. I got the RPG-6 anti-tank grenades, so Frank decides to attack me with tanks. Might not be so good with 3+ assault as well, and make your own luck, which is probably best 1 point you can spend in list building for Soviets. On a 4+, you auto get it, but pretty decent. And I got about a perfect amount of reserves in T-34s, 2 different T-34 tank companies, so one T-34 tank company and one T-34 85. But the T-34 company does have some 85, so it doesn't sound confusing at all. It's basically 10 T-34 tanks in 2 units, so that's not too bad for reserves, personally, I don't think.
Yes, a lot of anti-tank 12, which is very effective, because I'm not bringing anything big and nasty to the game. But here's a question for you: what do those RPG things actually do then? Because I've never seen them in action.
So, as it says on the card exactly, each time this unit rolls to hit an assault combat, up to 2 of its teams may attack with anti-tank rating of 10 and firepower 5+ against the opponent tank team's side armour rather than with their usual weapons. And I've equipped this to both rifle companies, so every combat I get to pick 2 guys. So it's kind of like how the Panzerfaust works in combat, but twice.
And they hit like bazookas, kind of like bazookas then. Anti-tank 10, firepower 5.
But he's still using my assault rating, which is a 3.
Yeah, they're not small bases,
Yeah. So if you had this on a motor company, Hero Motor Company, who I think they hit on 2s in assault and stuff like that, and they're only a point each, these RPG grenade things, so pretty decent. Obviously, you can't do defensive fire when they come in, but when you're in, you know, dangerous.
Yeah. So, my formation, as you mentioned before, you stripped out your mortars because I decided to do something different, something I wouldn't normally do on any of my games. I would normally take a bit of a balanced list, but I'm just going a bit daft today and taking just tanks. I'm playing Hungarians. So I've got a Panzer IV formation and a Zrinyi formation. So the Panzer IV formation has got HQ of 2 and 2 platoons of 4 Panzer IVs. Well, and then a platoon of 3 Panzer IVs. So there's 13 Panzer IVs. Quite a lot of Panzer IVs.
Quite a lot.
Right, and then the Zrinyis, which will also kind of be my artillery support, though they can act as tanks as well, or as assault guns by getting in close and shooting, but not very good in assault. I've got company command of 1 and 2 platoons of 3.
Are the Panzer IV stats any different with Hungarians?
They are careful, confident, trained, with a 3-up follow me and a 3-up remount. But they don't have, they're not German, if you see what I mean. They don't have German soft skills, you know, like Stormtrooper and all these kind of things. They're just Panzer IVs used by a minor nation. But they are careful, so they'll be harder to hit at least. And you've got quite a lot of anti-tank guns. You've got 4 half-decent ones, the veteran 57mm, and then 2 platoons of 4 47mm with their anti-tank 8.
Yeah, I've 45mm guns that, well, according to the book, they kill more tanks than anything in the war, and I feel like they need to get on the table at some point, don't they? So,
well, if there's enough of them dishing out anti-tank 8 against front armour 6, for instance, that's certainly going to give me something to think about. So, folks, there's the list. We're going to go over to set everything up. I'll show you the lists sort of off this little chat. I'll put a little clip in. And the mission, we've not yet rolled for the mission. We're either going to play, I'll tell you, you got a dice handy there. Right, yeah. Okay, roll a dice. Now 1, 2, 3, it'll be no retreat then, or 4, 5, 6, dogfight.
It's a 4.
Right, so it's going to be dogfight. So that's the mission we're going to play, folks, and I'll give people a quick reminder of that before we get into the game proper. So here is Rob's list, very much based around holding ground with infantry with anti-tank support. So there's 2 platoons, let's call them platoons. I know they're companies in the literature, but 2 platoons, 2 units of these Soviet infantry. Now these are just rifle battalion infantry, so they are careful, confident, green with a 4-up save, which means they're quite vulnerable. There's 15 bases plus a heavy machine gun and commissar in each one. Now Rob has added his Naval card to them, so they unpin on a 2 if commissar's still alive. I guarantee you the first person to get killed will be the commissar. It's always the same. So 2 units, 2 large units, so it'll take a bit of time to chew through even with the poor save. Then 2 units of 47mm anti-tank. There's a couple of proxies in there, guys, but they'll do. I've never had a need for 8 47mm anti-tank guns before. And they're anti-tank 8, so they're going to struggle, but they can still kill. At short range, they can still kill Panzer IVs. If I roll a 1, it's a chance to kill, and anybody can roll a 1, folks, for your save. So they could still be quite useful in this game. Next are the heavy tank killers. These are 57mm, anti-tank 11. But they're careful, which means all these aggressive guys might be easy to hit. These guys in a good position will be hard to hit. Could be quite survivable and dish out quite a bit of damage. And then backing them up, you have got a T-34-85 company. That's a platoon, really. And another T-34 company with a couple of T-34-85s. So That is Rob's Soviet infantry with anti-tank support. Here is my Hungarians, using all tanks, which is very unusual for me. Especially in version 4, I've never really used something which is all tanks or all infantry. So I don't know how it's going to work. Normally I would like to have some infantry to run around, try and infiltrate, be a nuisance, and also it's quite handy for certain kinds of assaults. But this is what I've got. First of all, it's a Zrinyi formation, company HQ of 1 and 2 platoons of 3. Originally I was thinking of getting another platoon of 3 of these in and putting 10 in just because 10 Zinris is cool, but it's probably a bit daft. If the whole formation isn't daft, that would have been daft. So there's one formation. And then a Panzer IV formation, HQ of 2, 2 platoons of 4, and these deserty looking guys is a platoon of 3. So that's a lot of Panzer IVs. They don't necessarily hit very hard, but you've got to remember they are careful. So they could be really quite hard to hit. And against medium armour, anti-tank 11 is not bad at all. Against front armour 6, anti-tank 11 can do quite a bit of damage. So they could be quite survivable. These guys, front armour of 7, and they're careful as well. They're also veteran, which is handy for their artillery side of things, because don't forget, this is artillery support as well. So, don't really know how it's going to play. Not used to playing all tanks, but up for the challenge, folks. Here is today's mission, Dogfight. As you can see, deployment's really quite simple and straightforward, just like the no retreat mission, except in this mission, the reserves are delayed and scattered. Now that is something that could work for or against either player. The reserves being delayed, they could come in late, but they could also come in just the perfect timing for the defender. And the location that they come in could be really good for the attacker or really good for the defender. So it's one of those missions which is a defensive mission but can get quite mobile and can be a bit of a swirling kind of battle as things develop. Special rules are ambush and then the deep scattered delayed reserves and minefields. So the defender does have the advantage of minefields to slow down the attacker or channel them. Now, other than that, the mission is exactly as you would expect, with the attacker able to take the defender's objective at any time and the defender winning the game if there is no attacking teams within 8 inches of an objective at the end of turn 6 onwards. So there you go, Dogfight. Right folks, we've set up. So the mission is Dogfight. So objectives, start with objectives. Rob's put one there and I put one here. And then minefields, Rob's want to cut off all easy avenues of advance, leaving me all advance options with cross checks or charging over minefields. And then in terms of deployment, let's start company HQs in here, kind of in the middle of everybody. Anti-tank guns here and here, so that's a lot of protection around that objective. Infantry platoon, a big lump in here, and then another big lump over there. Then there's 57 mils in ambush. Incidentally, this is my pre-arranged in markers. Now the 57 mils are ambush, the T-34s are in delayed reserves, but it's scattered, so they could come in on my flanks, which is not very good when you've got side armour of 3 and side armour of 2. But we'll see what happens. It really just comes down to where they come in and who blinks first in that shootout. So, we're ready to start, folks. I'll tidy up the all these markers and we'll come back at the end of Hungarian turn 1. Hungarian turn 1. So it's all about careful movement to begin with, folks. The Panzer IVs have got to move and do cross checks, moving over hedges, through woods and everything to avoid minefields. They're only trained, so going for a minefield might be a bit dangerous. So what you can see there is the first platoon of 4 closest to the wood, one of them didn't make it. The second in command didn't make it. And then the platoon on the other side of the wood nearest to town, one of them didn't make it. The other platoon of 3 all got through. So there's 3 that we'll have to wait and see, maybe have a sweep to see how many turns these guys get stuck on a bike that was parked in the hedge or stuck in a tree trunk. And then in terms of shooting, these Panzer IVs fired down and got, I think maybe got 1 hit on these guys, but it was a nice easy save. They got a 3-up save. But then the Zinris, the platoon on the edge of the table, ranged in here, got a hit and 1 kill. And then the company command got 1 hit and 1 kill. He's rerolling successful hits. The other platoon though was just, these guys are at 4-up saves, so they're a bit trickier to save, but Rob had no luck at all. And he managed 5 failed saves, and I managed to pass firepower on a 3-up on all of them. So they've taken a bit of a beating in turn 1, but I don't imagine that kind of luck will continue. And I have to keep moving forward as well. It's not just good enough for me to sit back and drop artillery bombardments. I need to move up, because turn 6, folks, that's always the key. Soviet turn 1. So motivation didn't go very well, unfortunately. These guys are pinned and they're still pinned. However, no, they're unpinned, sorry. However, it's not a problem at the moment, and the company command is there to help them out. Ambush popped on the hill at long range, but a very good position that will dominate anything that advances towards them. And that was, in terms of movement, the guys just moved back out of the ranged in template. Makes sense, not just to sit there. And the guys that were in this field have moved into this field, so they're not under this template, which is, they'll be rerolling saves. They're under one which is rerolling hits from the company command. So in terms of shooting, the 57mm, anti-tank 11, firepower 4, they got 3 hits on this platoon here, and I passed 1 save, and there was a successful firepower against the end one, failed against the middle one, so a kill and a bail against a platoon of 4, which you never know, could put them on a wee motivation, folks. So that's some revenge from the Soviets, and the defence basically shaping up. Hungarian turn 2. So in terms of motivation, the bailed out Panzer IV got back in, so there wasn't a last stand required. In terms of movement, this platoon of Zinris dashed and tried to follow me, failed, but they're moving around. These guys decided to hit the really hard bit of hedge. 1, 2, 3 failed cross checks there, and that's the one I really wanted. 1 failed there, but at least the guys in the wood got through. So in terms of shooting, I had a few shots I could put into here, and the platoon of 3 managed to get 1 hit. Sorry, there was maybe a couple of hits, but they managed to get a kill. And then the Zarinyes, just, I've never rolled so consistently passing firepowers, even on a 3-up. These guys were under a template with reroll saves, and 1, 2, 3, 4 got killed from that. And that was from me rerolling hits, so that was really, really unexpected. And then 1 got killed by the other platoon that ranged in there, which also ranged in here, which also got an anti-tank gun. So a few of them were in the open, but it was mainly, I think there was 4 pass firepowers in there, and last turn another 5 pass firepowers, no fails. So I can't expect to keep that up. But these guys are getting a wee bit low. There's 2, 4, 6 left out of the platoon. But that is still 6 guys, and the less there are, the less chances I've got to hit, so artillery does start to become less effective. Soviet turn 2. These guys unpinned, that's the infantry, the guns didn't, so they've pulled back out of these ranged in markers, because they've been hit already, so they're thinking, try and keep alive and then reoccupy. He moved back as well. That gun stayed put. Then in terms of shooting, it was really just anti-tank guns, and only 1 tank was in range because of its failed cross-check, and he got clobbered. though there was 2 failed firepowers against him, but 1 passed firepower. So there's now 2 tanks from that platoon kaput. So, turn 3, I've still got a long way to go to get to these objectives, and then turn 3, reserves will start to arrive. So, where are these T-34s going to end up? They could just smash my sides to bits. So there may be a lot of casualties here, but that isn't necessarily the most critical part of the game. German turn 3. I don't think there was any motivations to speak of there. In terms of movement, this platoon of Zrinjis is moving up. These guys, 2 got over the hedge, 1 didn't. They're now hull down on the hill. These guys stayed put. I tried some blitzes to get more shots on the anti-tank guns, but failed 2 of them. But they're only trained, these guys, remember. The Zrinjis are veteran. These guys are only trained. So in terms of shooting, all these guys concentrated on the hill. They got quite a lot of hits, but this time Rob's had a much more reasonable outcome in terms of saves and made all his direct fire saves. The Zrinjis tried to range in. Platoon of 3 missed, failed to range, but the company commander did manage to range in. And no kills, but there is, in fact, I don't think he even hit, but they are ranged in there. So, very, very much better turn for the Soviets in terms of casualties. I am moving up the table a bit, but it's turn 3 already, folks, so I can't be slouching about. And those anti-tank guns, I could just keep advancing towards them, but anti-tank 11 against front armour 6, you're on a wing and a prayer. I need to kill them to move on that flank, and hope I can somehow keep moving on this flank whilst dealing with T-34s. So let's see if they come in next turn. Soviet turn 3, but maybe most optimistically described as a lull in the game, because these guys tried to unpin and didn't. That's the platoon of 2, 47 mils. The 57 mils tried to unpin and didn't. The infantry, tried to dig in and didn't. The guns tried to dig in and didn't. And then that left, the 57 mils, and no reserves. 1 dice for reserves didn't arrive. The 57 mils have no targets in range. This sort of crescent that's firing at them is just out of range. These guys could have had options of shooting, but needing 5 to hit. Some of them would have been at long range, some at short. If he got hits on the Panzer IVs, I would need to roll a 1 for him to stand a chance of a kill. So Rob's decided he's going to keep them going to ground. They're dug in, concealed. They will need a short range, 5 to hit. So at the moment, they're a blocking force. So, time for me to try and keep moving forward and see if I can defeat a few more hedges. Hungarian turn 4. So, in terms of movement, let me think. This guy at the back's definitely getting sent back to driver school. He's still not passed. That'll be 4 failed cross checks. And then this guy part off, let me think, this platoon here, the survivors from them, he failed. Company commands moved to here. These guys have stayed put. And as did those guys to do some shooting at anti-tank guns. The Zinderies, 1 got over the hedge, but these guys do not cross hedges well. 2 didn't. Here I decided, hedges, I'm just going to try the minefields. And 2 of them failed. But then they just managed to survive in their saving throws. But they're sitting there bailed out. They'll have to move through the minefield again. And then in terms of shooting, the Zrinjiri company command missed all those guns. It's on rerolls to hits, needing 3s, but he never rolled above a 2 for any of the dice. And then these guys took a few hits, 1 failed save. This is coming in from here, and hopefully, as in hope, the Zinri's firing as well, but a Panzer IV killed one of them. So that's it again for me this turn, folks. Not very much in terms of casualties caused, but I have to keep moving forward. Turn 5, turn 6, that's got to be my target, really. I have to keep moving on. Soviet turn 4, in terms of motivation, these guys are not really doing anything, but they've unpinned. These guys still didn't unpin. they dug themselves in. These infantry have moved towards the objective again, and these guys are coming across. Reserves came in, and they came in on the flank, which is the worst possible place they could have come in for me, because they've killed everything over here. They had 5, let me see now, there was 1 automatic hit basically from a make your own luck, and then 4 shots, and they got 3 hits out of the 4. Straight to firepower, past all the firepowers, time for me to be on the wrong end of good firepower roll, so Cinderies are gubbed. Right, but more significant in terms of dice rolling and so on, these guys here fired up into these Panzer IVs. Now the only thing that could really hurt me is a 1. I rolled 3 1s and a 2. So I ended up with dead HQ unit and 2 bailed Panzer IVs in that platoon, and I really could have used them to try and turn them on them. So it could be game over soon for the poor Hungarians, because the reserves have come on. And you know folks, when reserves come on from the side, it always looks terrible, but there's so many games I have seen where they just fluff their lines and then everything turns around and shoots them. Not in this game. So Hungarian turn 5. Oh dear. In terms of motivation, one of these didn't get back in, one did and passed the last stand. The 2 tanks got back in. So what was I going to do? Well, he was just going to stay put and get some flank shots. Failed a blitz to try and get these into position, which is unfortunate. Company command moved up to here. These guys stayed put to fire down anti-tank guns, and these guys have moved up to fire down at these guys. And then in terms of shooting, he had 2 shots on 3s and he got 2 1s, sorry, 1 and a 2. These guys here, at short range, looking for 5s, got 1s and 2s. And then he fired, looking for 5s, got a 3 and a 4. He fired looking for a 4 and got a 3. And then these guys here did manage to at least get 1 hit, but it saved. It's got a 3-up save. These guys got 2 hits, 2 saves, but the single Zinri, the company HQ, managed to kill 1. But basically, it's going through the motions now, guys. If I'd have clobbered them, I could have pushed forward maybe in time to get an objective by turn 6. But I'm not going to have anything alive by turn 6. Soviet turn 5, there was a few like motivations or whatever, but that's not really even worth covering at this point, folks, because the reserves arrived here, the last reserves, so these guys just wall of death over my surviving tanks. Though strangely enough, now that it's too late, the Zinri decided it was going to take everything. They got 3 hits. Well, between them they got 3 hits and they rolled 3 6s. But Panzer IV smashed to bits. They're not going to stand up against all that anti-tank 12. The best they can hope for a short range is a Bale. And these guys were shooting good, and then these guys, the 76s, finished them off. So we're calling it. I really needed these guys to stay alive and somehow manage to push forward to get to that objective, but it's not going to happen, folks, so there's not much point in playing out around and doing a bit of shooting, because it ain't going to change the outcome. So we're going to go over for a recap. Well folks, that was a bit of an abrupt end to the game. Certainly prefer a game to have a bit more tension than that, but it kind of just fell off a cliff, you know. My poor guys ran into the perfect storm. When I'm playing these kind of games where you're the attacker, but you know at some point there's every chance you're going to have to defend yourself too because of reserves coming on from the flank, I do like it when my opponent's reserves come in early, preferably where they come in the wrong place too, but when they come in early, because then I can manoeuvre around that. But in this case, they came in late, I had to start pushing, and they came in exactly where Rob would have wanted them to come in, and every one of them fired, everyone hit. I think I lost 2 turns, 7 tanks for no response, so that's a pretty emphatic loss rate. That meant I could not push on with the game. Even though I'd only lost 1 platoon by that point, nothing was where it needed to be to keep the game going, i.e. get to the within 8 inches of an objective by, you know, like turn 6. So it was a sore one. But let's go over now to a recap where we'll just have a chat with Rob, get his thoughts, and give us your thoughts too, folks, in the comments. Maybe I did get a bit of an unexpected attack, but is there anything else I could have done better? Anything else I could have done differently? Just let us know what your thoughts are. So what did you think of the game, Rob?
It was really fun. Well, I really kind of just sat there, took it on my poor bloody infantry company, and it was just that one turn really. T-34s came in, and you're right, sometimes they come in and then just next turn just everything turns to them and they're gone. And I used make your own luck to get one hit, because I was gonna, if I didn't have that, I would have probably put 2 onto that Hungarian tank. But I thought there's only one active one, you can't fob it, so auto hit him, and then go for the rest, we'll wipe them out. And yeah, it's just that one turn, it's just luck. It just swings, everything went my way that turn. Firepower, where they came in, the fact that they actually came in. But yeah, it was an enjoyable game. The remote gaming was fun. Luckily, I played a very defensive game, so it wasn't really too panicky where everything moved.
It's better to do that to start with anyway. So.
Yeah, and as you can tell you know how to position it and how people like it, and it's pretty simple. And but yeah, I can't believe how many guys in that company drop that first turn and then the second turn, and luckily there's so many of them, because any other nation they would have all been gone.
Mm-hmm. That level of save is hard to defend with, I think. When you're attacking, maybe you can get a bit lucky, but when you're sitting with reroll saves on a 4-up, that's double jeopardy. But as it was, they took the pain and then just walked back into the objective later on. So as far as they were concerned, there's just a few more heroes for the Soviet Union, and they've held the ground.
It might actually be enough for them. Well, that would be a hero company now. What's left? Yeah, they are now. I don't know. The T-34s did the work, but these guys did definitely keep you busy for plenty of time, surprisingly. And with ambush, I never like to pop my ambush that early, but it was just the point. I wanted more turns to fire. I didn't want that one turn to fire, and then you get the counter or move away. But it kind of stalled you, because you would have just kept moving everything, and I wouldn't have been able to deal with 3 platoons of Panzer IVs with one gun unit. And I definitely think the hedges did a lot of work for me with your cross checks.
A couple of the tanks just didn't like hedges.
No,
just weren't up for it at all. And
then you tried moving through a minefield and got worse.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse. I could have just died. But if I'd have made it through the minefield, the thing is, I would have prevented some of your T-34s maybe getting around the flank, because I could have pushed further up. So it was a bit of a double whammy. I could have occupied the space a lot of your tanks were in, you see. And that's something I try to do when I know stuff's coming in the flank, but didn't happen. I honestly going to have nightmares about that turn. Whenever I think about dogfight as a mission, I always think, oh no, where's the reserves going to come? But anyway, to prevent us waffling anymore, well done in the win.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for playing on the channel. And guys, I know most of you probably know Valley Gaming already, and you maybe don't always hit the subscribe button when you're watching videos. I don't on every channel that I watch. I don't subscribe to everything I watch, but most of these channels that I don't click subscribe on are channels that have already built up a substantial amount of subscribers. So it helps out Rob, it helps out other Flames of War content producers if you can hit the subscribe button, and YouTube starts to like us more and do a bit more for us, which means we can do a bit more for you.
Exactly.
Anyway, there you go folks, I have been well and truly gubbed, and I'm looking forward to a game, or 3 games as it is, if it goes ahead next Saturday at the Games Hub in Edinburgh. When I say looking forward, I'm not really looking forward to 3 games, but I'll get to play some other folks. But there you go. Rob, thanks again. Say thank you to all the subscribers.
Thank you everyone, and yeah, great game again. Thanks for hosting me, Frank.
No worries. Thanks again for watching, folks, and hopefully we'll both see you on the next one.